Right, it's 11:05. We'll start now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on improving profits in your CNC, on your CNC lathes by making use of your spindle power to the maximum. This webinar comes to you from Cadem Technologies Private Limited. This is who Cadem is. We are a leading provider of software for CNC machines in India, as well as to a lot of countries worldwide. Our products are all made in India. They're exported to a lot of countries worldwide. These products are very easy to use. They're meant for shop floor people, not for some highly trained PhDs or something like that. All you need to know is you need to know machining to be able to use our software. It's also meant for use by operators, in fact. We have a range of products for both industry as well as education. That is technical training institutions, whether it is ITIs or diploma colleges or engineering colleges, or for training institutes of in-house training centers in companies. Like large corporates will have their own in-house training centers. You can also use it there. So it has a variety of products, software products for teaching the basics of CNC technology, cutting tools, and machine construction, then programming, machine operation. So you can basically teach the whole range of topics that you need for training or at various levels, at operator level, engineer level, manager level, and so on. And this is who I am. I have about 35 years of experience in machining of auto parts, aerospace parts, tooling, in CAD/CAM and Industry 4 systems. Now, we'll get on to the topic on hand, which is how do you improve CNC profits using on your CNC lathes. There's just one simple trick, right? Maximize the use of your spindle power on your lathe through proper use of tools and cutting parameters. Now, we'll start with this little story, right? There are two elephants here. You can see the elephant on the left and the elephant on the right. They're the same. The mahots, the guys who actually drive the elephants, they are the same. Both are those blue dress guys with a hat, right? There's only one small difference between the two elephants, which you probably noticed by now. And what is that difference? The elephant on the left, it's carrying this really large log. It's carrying a heavy load, whereas the elephant on the right is carrying a small load. They're the same elephant, the same mahot, right? But the elephant on the right is not loaded properly. It can carry a much heavier load, but it's carrying a much smaller load. An elephant coincidentally costs about the same as a small size CNC lathe. It costs about 3,000 rupees a day to maintain, to give it food, for its medicines, for the cost of the mahot, and so on. So somebody who's using an elephant to make it work is going to use it to the fullest possible extent, right? And a CNC lathe, which let's say you have 150 rupees per hour lathe, right? And you got 20 hours working in a day. 150 into 20 is 3,000 rupees. So coincidentally, it's about the same cost as an elephant. So you should be making it work like an elephant to the fullest possible extent. But what typically happens is that we don't. On the vast majority of shop floors, we do not make use of the CNC lathe to the maximum possible extent. And why is that? Because if I'm the programmer, I'm more bothered about the program coming right and the quality tests being passed and the part being, you start machining the part on the machine. I'm not so bothered about the cycle time or the machining cost and so on. As a programmer, this is the problem on the vast majority of machines. Now, the thing is that if you have the motor on the machine is the equivalent of the trunk on the elephant, right? The trunk is the elephant's trunk is the thing that's really carrying that heavy load. Same thing in a CNC lathe, the spindle motor is the one that is really carrying the heavy load, which is primarily responsible for the cutting. You also have the motors for moving the axis, the axis servo motors and so on. But the primary cutting power comes from the spindle motor, right? Now, if the spindle motor is equivalent to your elephant's trunk, you should be making use of the spindle motor to the maximum possible extent. But unfortunately, typically we don't. Let's say you use it for half the capacity, then you're actually using the half the capacity of the lathe, and you're getting half the return on investment, half the cycle time, or sorry, twice the cycle time, all these problems. Your profits are probably half as much as they can be, right? You go to any shop floor, the spindle load meter on most of the machines, it looks like this. The load will be something like, anywhere between 20 to 30% and so on. Even in roughing operations, 30%, 40%. This means you are using 30 to 40% of the lathe's capacity. You have paid maybe 20 lakhs for the lathe, and you are making use of how much? 40% of 20 lakhs is 8 lakhs, right? Why did you pay 20 lakhs when you're using only 8 lakhs? That is something that we need to ask ourselves. And to understand how to use the spindle motor to the maximum possible extent, we first need to understand something about the motor. What is the spindle motor? How does it actually work? How is it specified? The motor, like any motor, electric motor, it gets heated up. As time goes by, it gets hotter and hotter. And as you increase the power requirement, as you load the motor more and more of there's more heating. Why? Because power directly results, more power used means more current flowing through the windings of the motor. So there is something, we've all read this. There's something called the I squared R losses, which cause heating, right? In any electrical circuit. I is your current, R is your resistance. So as the I goes up, the heating is, it's the square of the I squared R. So there's a lot of heating as the current goes up. And beyond a certain point, the insulation in the motor of all the windings and so on, all the insulation will break down. The insulation is mostly a high grade, high temperature plastics and so on. Now, after about 180 to 200 degrees, anywhere between 150 to 200 actually, it depends on the quality of your motor and so on. Beyond that, the motor will get damaged. All this, the plastic will melt. There will be a complete breakdown of the motor, right? You've seen this in the pumps in the house. A lot of us have probably have seen instances of the motor pump in the house getting burnt, right? You can't keep it on for more than like half an hour to 1 hour. You can't keep it on for the whole day. You keep it on for the whole day, the motor just burns. This is exactly what happens to the CNC lathe motor. It keeps on getting heated up. Now the trick is to not allow it to get heated up to such an extent that it will get damaged. Now, there is something called a duty cycle on the motor. Unlike a house pump motor, on a CNC lathe, the power is not constant. The power requirement is not constant. The load on the motor is not constant, right? If let's say you're doing part loading and unloading, the lathe, the spindle is stopped, right? Spindle motor is fully stopped. So there's zero load on it. Then after that, there's a tool change, maybe 3 seconds, 2-3 seconds, there's a tool change, right? So the motor is not running at all. So the load is zero. Then there's a rough turning operation, which requires a heavy power. And it typically takes a long time. The rough turning is quite a lengthy operation. Then you've got a tool change where again, you're back to zero. in terms of power. Again, grooving. So grooving, finish, turning, threading, drilling. So a bunch of these operations where the load can be varying. And there are intermittent zero load situations where there's tool change, or there's a rapid motion where load is minimal. The motor is only rotating. It's not, there's no cutting load, right? This is called the duty cycle of the motor, right? Now, heating depends on the duty cycle. You could have a motor which is only, you could have a machine which is only doing finish turning on aluminum, right? Where your power is very low. And the time taken to do the finish turning also is very less. So your duty cycle, what actually finally results in heating is something called the root mean square power, fine? The power one, that is your P1 is your, let's say, the load unload, part loading and unloading. P1 is 0, T1 is maybe 10 seconds. For 10 seconds, you're loading the part, fine. 0 into 10 seconds, 0 squared into 10 seconds. Then you're doing rough turning. In rough turning, maybe you're using, let's say 10 kilowatts. So 10 squared into the time for it is maybe 60 seconds. So 10 squared into 60. So like this, you calculate the root mean square, and that is the final power that you're using for that particular part, right? And this also is going to decide what is your power bill. The power bill comes from the RMS power, right? So now that we have seen what is a motor, what is motor heating, and what is root mean squared power, and what is duty cycle, let's come to what is the motor rating. Now these numbers all of us see in the machine tool catalogs, in CNC lathe catalogs, right? But 90% of the time we simply ignore it. We don't know what it means, and we don't care what it means. We just say, oh, okay, it's a heavy motor with, you know, whatever, 15 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt or whatever, or a small motor. This is all we see. But we don't know what these two numbers mean, what these numbers mean, and so on. Now, there are two different ratings on any motor. One is a continuous rating and a short-term rating. Continuous rating is the maximum power at which the motor can continuously run, right, without getting burnt. That's obviously a lower power. What is happening when the motor is getting heated up? Inside the casing, it is getting heated, and then through the casing, through the fins and so on, the heat is being dissipated into the atmosphere continuously. It's continuously getting heated, continuously getting dissipated into the atmosphere. Now, if the rate of heating and the rate of dissipation is equal, right, then the motor is not going to, it'll attain some stable temperature and stay there. Let's say 100 degrees or whatever it is, at which it can operate 100, 120 degrees, whatever. So it'll be stable at that temperature. But if so there's a certain power limit at which this will happen. You go beyond that power limit, then the motor is going to continuously keep getting heated. Fine. So this power limit at which the temperature will be stable and safe is called the continuous rating. And the short-term rating is that you can operate at that power, at a much higher power, for a short while, maybe half an hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Fine. That is called and beyond that, the temperature of the motor has gone so high that it's not safe to operate it. So if you see your machine tool catalog, this is what it will say. AC, this is a big machine, 18.5/22. 18.5 is your continuous rating. That means that I can consume 18.5 kilowatts continuously, 24 hours without any problems, right? The motor is not going to get damaged. And I can consume 22 kilowatts up to 30 minutes continuously. But if your duty cycle is such that typically any parts duty cycle you have, like I said, you know, your you've got heavy loads, you've got light loads, you've got zero loads. So typically you're never going to be doing this. You're never going to be continuously cutting for 30 minutes. But even if you do, this you can go up to 22 kilowatts, right? And this is your spindle power maximum. What is a full power range? The power that a motor can give it's not constant, right? Just because I say 18.5 kilowatts, it doesn't mean that 18.5 is available at all RPMs. It is only available between a certain specified set of RPMs. So your full power, 18.5 or 22 or whatever, is available between 440 RPM to 2630 RPM. Obviously, from 0 to 440, it's continuously rising, and then it's constant like that. This is a big motor. This is a small motor. So big machine, the big motor on a big machine. This is maybe this is a 250, 300 mm chuck size. This is a small machine, probably 150 mm chuck size, right? So here you'll find that there's continuous rating, and then there's a 15-minute rating, because your cycle times on a small machine will be short, small cycle times. So small, even the short-term rating is given as a 15-minute rating or a 10-minute rating. And again, here you can see full power range is available between 1000 and 3000 RPM. Fine. This is the motor rating. There's another thing that you'll also see in most cutting tool catalog, in most CNC lathe catalogs, or whatever, CNC lathe or machining center. This is the speed power graph. Here you can see the earlier measurement, the 18.5 22 kilowatt motor that we saw earlier in the previous slide. This is for the same motor. Here it's showing you that this red line is your continuous rating. The green is your, sorry, the green is your continuous rating. Red is your short-term rating. Fine. So let's say this is 18.5 kilowatts, short-term, half-hour rating. Now, from at 0 RPM, obviously the power generated by the motor is 0. Power given out by the motor is 0. As you increase the RPM, the power available increases. And at 440 RPM, you've got your maximum power of 18.5 kilowatts, continuous rating. You can see here, let's say your RPM is only 5, this is 500, this is 250. At 250 RPM, I've got only 10 kilowatts available. So you need to see what operation you're doing at what diameter, what is your RPM. That's all based on your constant surface speed, your limiting spindle speed, and all that. Based on that, how much power does the machine have available, and how much do you need for cutting? So these graphs are key to understanding how much power you have on your machine, right? It is not one fixed number. The power varies depending on what is the RPM at which you're running. So we have understood this. And what do you mean by power? This formula, which you will find in most cutting tool catalogs. And again, next time you see a cutting tool like catalog, please go and see this formula there. This formula actually tells you how much is the theoretical cutting power, not the actual. The actual and the theoretical, there's a small difference. I'll explain why. So the theoretical cutting power it depends on your depth of cut, your feed rate, the cutting speed. S is the cutting speed. Then this is your specific cutting force. That depends on how much, what is the strength of the material. The KC, the specific cutting force for stainless steel, will be much, much higher than for aluminum, for example. So you require far more power to cut stainless steel than to cut aluminum. And then you have the approach angle of the tool. So this formula enables you to calculate what is the spindle power requirement. It's a theoretical value. Now the problem with CNC lathe is that you have the motor, then you have a belt, which is going up to the spindle typically, right, at the back of the spindle. Now this belt is driving the spindle and your chuck finally. there are going to be losses in the belt itself. So there are going to be mechanical losses in the belt. Then the spindle has started rotating, right? And then you've got bearings. The spindle is in bearings. Bearings again will be generating friction. Because of frictional losses, you're going to have heat generated and all that. But essentially, you have mechanical losses. If I generate 10 kilowatts at the motor, maybe I'm only getting 8 kilowatts at the chuck. It depends on your mechanical efficiency. A very expensive machine with a very high class of bearings and belt and so on, there the mechanical efficiency will be much higher. There are, really cheap machines, low cost machines where the mechanical efficiency is as low as 60%. That means 40% of your power available at the motor you've lost by the time you come to it. So this is also taken into account when you actually calculate the spindle power. So this formula gives you the theoretical cutting power, then you convert that into the required spindle power. And there's some rules of spindle power usage. So what did we see so far? We saw how a motor gets heated up. What can you do? What kind of power ratings, what power should you stick to? The power consumption on the motor, what power should you stick to so that the motor doesn't get heated up to dangerous levels and get damaged? That is defined by the ratings on the continuous rating and the short-term rating, which are available on your specification. Then we saw the speed power graph, right? And how do you estimate what power is available at what RPM of the motor? Now we are saying, what are the rules? The first thing, you go to any shop floor, and like I told you, next time try this experiment. Go to the shop floor and ask the operator or the programmer, this thing is running at, there's only 30% power consumption and it's doing a roughing operation. Why are we only using 30%? Why can't we use the full power? No, sir, the motor will get damaged if you use the full power. That will be the answer. Always try this next time, right? Now, what is it? Why is the motor built for a particular power? It is built to use that power. We are paying money to use that power, right? Like a car. If I've got a speedometer which says 140, the car is not going to blow up. It's not going to fall apart at 140. It will run. Maybe it will vibrate a little bit based on, like if you're in a Benz, the Benz will still be going smoothly at its maximum rated speed, design speed. Maybe a cheaper car, maybe will start vibrating. Maybe its handling will be slightly off here and there, but it depends on the quality of your car. So your motor is meant to be used to the fullest possible extent. You're paying money for it, right? So these are the rules. Use the motor ratings, the speed power graph, and the duty cycle knowledge. You must use it to figure out how much power is available at what RPM and so on. Then you can load the motor to 100% of the continuous rating safely. If your motor is say 18.5 22, 18.5 kilowatt, you can fully load it continuously and run it. There's no problem at all. And even if you want to go beyond 18.5, let's say you want to run it at the short-term rating, 22 kilowatts, unless you have a problem like, let's say you've got a shaft of say 5-meter length, right? And that is running at something like 100 RPM, and it takes one cut on such a shaft may take you maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour, correct? One single cut. In that case, you have to be bothered about the short-term rating also. In that case, you just, to be on the safe side, just stick to the continuous rating. In fact, in all cases, if you stick to the continuous rating, you get the best use of your motor and you're on the safe side. But if you really know your duty cycle and so on, you are confident that yes, the power is not going to go to that extent so that it will get heated up, then go to your the short-term rating also, which is 22 kilowatt. Or let's say 5.5, 7.5, 7.5/11, right? These are all continuous and short-term ratings. Now, so the first rule is use your spindle power to the maximum. That is the only rule, right? Use your spindle power to the maximum. The spindle power of the machine is the trunk of your elephant. Don't make your elephant sit silently, sit quietly there, not doing much work or doing half the work when you can actually fully load it. That should be your rule. But how do you achieve that? How do I achieve the maximum use of the spindle power? By using the proper cutting tools and of course, so the cutting tools, inserts and cutting parameters, these are key to that. But how you can only enable this, you can achieve this by also good work holding. You hold your part rigidly, then you can use the maximum possible cutting parameters, use your spindle power to the maximum possible extent. If your part is not rigidly held or it's got a very high overhang, you're not using a tailstock, or even if it's even longer, then if you're not using a steady rest and so on, then you need to reduce all this. So ensure that all those are good, and also that you use the tools and cutting parameters optimally. Now, for that, you need to learn about all this, right? You need to know about tool holders, insert grades, chip breaker geometry, positive, negative inserts, all these things we don't, 95% of people on the shop floor, the programmers do not bother about this. The programmers are also responsible for selecting tools, correct? So they'll never bother about all this. They don't, in fact, there's a severe lack of knowledge of all this. We need to learn all this. Unless we learn these, we cannot use the machine to the fullest possible extent. So we need to learn about all this. We need to refer to cutting tool catalogs and select the proper holder and insert, and understand that cutting speeds that you're given in manufacturer's catalogs are for tool life of maybe 15 minutes, or depends on, as far as I know, it is by default 15 minutes. Nobody mentions it, but 15 minutes is what you can take it as. Then you multiply it by the factor. If you want, say, half an hour, 15 minutes is too low. What do I mean by 15 minutes tool life? If let's say I'm using a CNMG insert to do a rough turning operation, and the tool is in contact with the part for 1 minute, totally 1 minute cutting time, actual cutting time, right, of the tool. It is actually in touch with the part for 1 minute. Then I can get 15 parts. But that means you have to change the insert every 15 parts. But if you say, no, I want to change it every 30 parts, then you have to reduce the cutting speed or feed rate or whatever, and then achieve a higher tool life. That you can do again with some factors, multiplication factors, which you will get in the catalog. And other things you need to understand, that every shape of insert has a maximum depth of cut, right? Based on the cutting edge length. Like in this case, CNMG 120408. 12 is your cutting edge length, 04 is the thickness of the insert, 08 is your nose radius, which is 0.8 mm. Right? So if your cutting edge length is 12 and this is the shape of your insert, that is C, you go here and you see that C is 0.66 into cutting edge length. So 0.66 into 12. You can actually, with this insert, you can go to a maximum depth of cut of 8 mm. That's a lot, right? We normally take, most programmers will say, yeah, roughing 2 mm. 2 mm is my default. Thumb rule ho gaya. I use the thumb rule, 2 mm, 3 mm for roughing, something like this, right? Typically, that is what it is, without any scientific basis. But you go down into all this, this is the true scientific basis on which you can decide. Another rule for reducing your cycle time, improving your spindle power utilization is the cutting speed. Just remember these three things, right? Cutting speed has the highest effect on tool life. If I increase the cutting speed by 20%, tool life goes down by 50%, half the tool life, right? If I increase the cutting speed by 50%, tool life goes down by 80%. That is, so it's not a proportionate effect. the cutting speed. So the cutting speed has the highest effect on tool life. Do not increase the cutting speed unnecessarily. That is why. Feed rate has a smaller effect. But feed rate you can't touch because you have problem. Like if in finishing, I can't increase the feed rate to reduce the cycle time because my surface finish will go down. And feed rate also decides your chip breaker based on what chip breaker geometry there is. So feed rate has a smaller effect. Depth of cut has almost no effect on the tool life. So play around with the depth of cut. That is the rule, right? Do not touch the cutting speed. Try not to touch the feed rate. So these are our little rules. Now I'll just show you a small demonstration of, now, the first thing that we think is, oh, how am I going to, do all this? You mean every time I've got to sit and calculate this, the spindle power using this? And remember one thing, this is only for turning. This formula is for turning. You'll have similar formula for drilling, for threading, for grooving. Each one has a different formula. So you need to sit and calculate these things. You can make Excel spreadsheets, just put in, or make your own little software. You have tools on the web today which enable you to make your own little software, right? Without knowing anything about software development. So you can build your own little software or use the Excel to calculate these things and do multiple iterations. You just increase the depth of cut, see whether so you need to keep constantly comparing. You have to keep using this graph. You have to use this. So these two, these formulae and the graph for that particular machine, that is going to decide how you're going to use your cutting parameters. Fine. Now, that's a problem. But today's a lot of software today will actually give you the spindle power calculation or the cutting tool manufacturers websites. Almost every manufacturer's websites, you go there, it'll give you spindle power calculation also. You just enter your cutting parameters, it'll give you the spindle power. So please use that. Right? Now I'm going to show you a demonstration of how you can do this through the software also. This is our own CADM Capstone software. I'm going to do a small short part and show you how we can reduce the cycle time on that. Okay, so this is the Capstone software. This is software. When you start the software, this is what you see. You can create a new part, open existing parts. I'm just going to create a new part. And now it's asking me various pieces of data. This is called the work setup. So what workpiece material do I want to cut first thing? Because this decides various things, right? What cutting parameters to use, what is the spindle power requirement for each operation, all that it'll decide. So let's say I select this material. You can either select the workpiece material from a generic list of some 20-25 materials like this, or you can select it from the standard. Like if your drawing has any of these, drawing will mention the standard. So just select it from that standard. And we enter a few other pieces of data like what is the position of the jaw and so on. And then how much is your load unload time, which is used in cycle time calculation. And enter your part details. Let's say then part name. What is the setup number? What is the fixture? Just enter Chuck if you don't have a specific fixture. Who's the programmer? So you've entered all this. And I say okay. Now I will just import you in this software. You can actually import a drawing from an external CAD if you already have it, or you can create the drawing from its own inbuilt CAD, which is actually the inbuilt CAD is very powerful. It's got features like you can add uh, the undercuts, you can add grooves, undercuts of a variety of shapes, and so on. I'm just going to import an existing drawing. This is my blank and part shape. The blank can be any shape. It can be a casting or a forging or whatever. In this case, it's a bar stock. Right? So I'm selecting this as my part shape. This is my raw material shape. This was the geometry mode. I'm going to the machining mode. So in the machining mode, I am just a minute. Right. So this is the raw material and the blank shape. I go to what I want to do now is just do a rough turning operation and a finish turning operation, just two operations, fine. I go to operations, so in the operations, you have a bunch of hole machining operations, drilling, counter boring, tapping, and so on. Then you have the turning operations. You have a variety of turning operations equivalent to, some plain turning. This is equivalent to your G71, 72 on the FANUC, and then you've got contour turn along part, which is equivalent to your G73 on the FANUC, where if you have a casting or a forging, you can use this. Finish turn, grooving, threading, profile threading, right? So all these. Now I'm just going to do a contour turn operation. I say new tool, and it knows what tool I prefer for rough turning. So it has just come from here and selected this tool, right? I'm just going to say okay. I'm just going to use this software like a normal, programmer would. I'm saying okay, and I want to turn from here to here. Right? So it has put up an operation name automatically for me. I can change it if I want. Then it's putting the safe approach distance. What is the finish allowance? All these are default values. It knows that I like these values normally. I can change them whenever I want. I can change it right here also. Some default depth of cut thumb rule, I've got 2 mm, right? All of us love that 2 mm, 2 mm, 3 mm for roughing. Then it's based on the workpiece material and the tool material and the operation, it is selected the cutting parameters. Feed rate I can change based on, in case, so based on what surface finish I want, I can just click here and it'll automatically change the feed rate because it knows the nose radius of the tool, and based on that it calculates this. I don't want to change anything. I'm happy with whatever is there. I say okay. Now you can see that the raw material shape has changed. All it has is, left now is 0.5 mm of finish allowance. Now I do a finish turn operation. I select a new tool. Again, it's selected from a big list of tools and shank sizes and so on. It selected a tool that I prefer always to use for finishing. That's the tool that's available in my tool grid menu, right? I say okay. And then I want to turn from here to here, right? Safe approach, finish allowance is 0. You can change it to, if you want, if you have a grinding operation, if you have heat treatment and grinding after this, you might want to put a small finish allowance for the grinding allowance and so on. I put an undershoot because I'm cutting beyond the axis and I want nose radius compensation. I say okay. So now the part is done. Let me see if the tool path is okay. So this is showing you the tool 1:1. It's the insert, the nose radius, the approach angle of the holder. Every single thing is exactly as it is on the machine. On your, this is the simulation on your monitor may be slightly jerky because of the broadband speed, but normally it's so if you're seeing it in front of your own computer, it'll be a very smooth simulation, and you can, whatever you're getting here is exactly what you're going to get on the machine, right? So you don't have to do any further dry run on the machine at all. Everything, including the chuck position, everything is shown. So now I'm happy with the part. The simulation is fine. There's no, there are no collisions, there's no gouging and so on. That is automatically taken care of in the software by artificial intelligence routines, logic. So there will be zero collisions once the software automatically, we make mistake. Like, you remember, if you've done any programming, I have a board like this. I've done it long back when I've damaged tools and machines that way. I've got a board, I go in, right? And then in the program, instead of coming out and going, I just push off straight in the program. I forget to come out, take the tool out. This is one common mistake. So software doesn't do all that. It completely avoids all these human errors. And this kind of error, you do 100 programs, one program you're going to make this mistake, and which will result in one tool damage and one first part rejection. Right? So here all that is taken care of. Now we've seen that the tool path is fine. The part has been cut beautifully, no problems. Now I want to make some money out of this part. I want to reduce the cycle time. So what do? There is a feature called Money Maker, very appropriately named, the feature. So go to this, right? First you select the machine. What machine do you want to cut it on? You got all your machines on the shop floor listed here, different spindle power and so on. Let's say I want to do it on this particular machine. I select, then go here, go to Money Maker, and here you'll see that, so the machine, the job material, part name, part number, all that is mentioned here. And this is a complete process sheet. What is the operation, tool, the cutting parameters, FSD, feed rate, cutting speed, and depth of cut. What is the maximum depth of cut possible with this insert that you have selected earlier, right? From the cutting tool. What is the power required to cut? How much is the power available in kilowatts, right? And what is the torque required and torque available? This torque again is very important, because if you exceed the torque, if let's say I'm using a very heavy cutting parameter, very heavy depth of cut or something, sometimes you'll see that the job is just seized, right? It's not able to rotate, because that's the maximum power available. The torque that you want, that you require for cutting, is more than the torque that is available at the motor. So motor is not able to give enough torque, and it will seize. So to prevent that, you also get the torque required and torque available. How much is the time, right? And what is the percentage of time, cost, and so on. So all these it's showing you. Here you can see we were speaking about the RMS power, right? The root mean squared power. So this whole job is going to take only, you can see here that the power required is 6.2 kilowatts for the first operation, but the RMS power is only 1.4 kilowatts. That is how the duty cycle affects your power consumption. What is the scrap volume? What is the machine hour rate? 300 rupees per hour. What is the scrap rate? This helps you to make money out of selling scrap. We all do that, right? Scrap is a big portion of our income. So we sell the scrap. We want to know how much money you're going to make out of selling the scrap. Let's say I have a batch quantity of 20 pieces. So it's showing me how much is the machining time per part. That is 1 minute and 1 second. And for the whole batch, it is 20 minutes and 20 seconds. What is the scrap weight and machining cost, scrap sale value, net machining cost. This scrap rate you can keep changing. There's a small area where you can enter the scrap rate on a daily basis, weekly basis. Go look at your newspaper or whatever and put the scrap rate there, so you can keep getting your calculations properly. Fine. So it's showing you it's actually showing you how much money it's going to cost you to machine, how much money you are going to make out of the scrap sale. Fine. And net is how much. This is one of those weird cases where I make more money out of selling the scrap than, you know, the cost of the machining. You have those cases now, right? When scrap sale values are high. So now let's see how we can reduce. This is 1 minute, 1 second, and machining cost is 4.2. Right? Now, this is telling me that the depth of cut that I've chosen by default, my thumb rule, is 2, and the depth of cut that is possible, maximum, is almost 8 mm. So what I'm going to do now is I will increase this. Let's say now I'm only using 6.2 kilowatts where the available is 13.6, right? Let's make this some 6 mm. So what happened now is when I made it 6, power required is 18.6. You can see it has become red, correct? Required power is more than available power. So I can't use 6. Let me reduce this to say 5. Even now it is slightly higher. Say 4.5. Now it's almost there. I can make it 4.3 or 4 or something like that. Let's say 4.3. Yeah, 4.3. Now you can see everything is black. There is no red. You see any red, you got a problem. Just reduce your cutting parameters. So how long did this take us? Something like 30 seconds to do this R&D, right? Little bit of playing around with the cutting parameters based on what the software is telling me, how much power is being used, how much you have available. Now, in this 30 seconds, I've managed to reduce the machining time from 1 minute, 1 second to 45 seconds. That is straight away a 25% reduction in cycle time. And how much is your machining cost? It was 4 rupees 20 paisa. Now it's become 2 rupees 90, 2.9 from 4.2. So straight away, I'm making 25% more money here just by increasing the use of the spindle power in such a way that I'm using the maximum possible power. Now, we just did it for roughing, correct? But you can also play around with finish. The problem with finish turning is that what do I change? I can't, if I change the cutting speed, then I'm going to affect the tool life. If I increase the feed rate, then the surface finish is going to drop. So let's forget about, let's say in this part, we'll forget about finishing. We're happy. We've done some 25% reduction. We have earned 25% more money through just playing around with the first operation, which is the roughing operation. And typically roughing operations are drilling, grooving. These are where your, rough turning and so on. These are where your maximum cycle time is consumed and power is consumed. So this is where you have the maximum scope to play around with all the rough, heavy metal removal operations. Right? So this is the feature called the money maker. Here you can quickly increase the utilization of your spindle and reduce your cycle time. So here what we saw is a 25% reduction in cycle time with just a little bit of playing around. And I'm not doing any calculation here. The software is doing all the background calculations and showing it to me here. So that's the thing. And it's all about money. This feature is called Money Maker because it shows you how much money you're making, how much money you're making, how much money you're spending to machine one part, how much money you're making by selling the scrap, how much is your net earning from this, all this. Now, we managed to reduce the cycle time. We saw that our tool path is fine. I can just quickly check how much is my spindle power. How much have I used here? You can see this graph shows me And in finishing, it's almost zero. This is one, this is second operation. Finishing, it's almost zero. So you can barely see it, but it's there. You can print that graph out. You can get a cycle time sheet. This cycle time sheet it can be saved as a PDF. It can be saved as an Excel, whatever. It's got all the part details, right? Who's your programmer? Who's your programmer you need, because in case there's a problem, whose neck do you grab finally, right? And what is the material, fixture, everything is shown. You can, and then what is your cycle time summary? We could have changed that, right? When it says over here, when I say, right, when I say close, you have the option of saving this or using it as it is, right? Now, if you save those modified parameters, it will reflect in the cycle time sheet also here. Instead of 1 minute, whatever, it would have shown it as 45 seconds. So it's showing you all the operation, cutting speed, feed rate, the time, all this. You can print this out, give it to your operator immediately, or save it as a PDF in your computer. Then you can print a tools list, give it to the operator, or save it away for future reference. Then there is a feature called tool layout sheet. Here, this is a graphical representation of your whole process, of every operation, right? This is rough turning, right? First operation, and what is the tool name? What is the tool path here? Tool, everything, the raw material shape, the whole lot. Finish turning, what is the tool? It's a PDJNL. The first tool was a PCLNL. Second tool, it's showing you a PDJNL. It shows you exactly to scale, 1:1. You can get a printout of this, right? This is a print preview. You can print this out on a printer and hand it over to the operator. So the advantage of doing all these is that your communication with the shop, with the operator, is clearer. He knows exactly what is to be done, and there's no, I don't write, like a lot of times. Let's say we do this, right? We write the tools list on the back of a bus ticket and give it to the operator. Yeah, ye kar do, and then you push off. You're in the general shift, right? And you push off. And then the operator, he doesn't know what you've written something, he's reading it as something else, and he's doing something else. So all these communication problems won't be there with this automatic generation of the documents. So we've reduced the cycle time, we've seen the documents, and then we are finally just going to generate the NC program. And this again it's completely automatic. There is absolutely no need to edit this. There's something called a post processor which takes care of translating your cutting path, the tool path, into a CNC program for a particular machine. And that post processor will give you a program. It is custom built, customized for each machine, right? All these codes, all these are customized, so it'll come out exactly as the machine requires it. That particular machine requires it. Like for example, on an LMW machine, your M03 and 4 are the reverse of maybe on an ACE or something. On some machines, your coolant on is M07. On some machines, it's M08. So all these things it'll take care of the post process. So there is absolutely zero editing to be done. You got all your CAN cycles, then you've got your G42, G41, 42, the nose radius compensation, all these. And the program is fully documented. You've got what is the part number, part name, the fixture, who's the programmer, what is the tool. Every time there's a tool change, it'll put that. Every time there's an operation change, it'll put the operation name. So this is the CNC program. And so this is how you do this using a software. You can do it manually. You can use your like I said, Excel, or you can make your own little software to do the calculation and use the spindle power to the maximum extent, or you can use a software like this, which is much faster, of course, and it doesn't require all that knowledge. So I'm just going back to the presentation. So I'll just quickly run through what we saw here. Why should you use your spindle power to the maximum extent? Then how is the spindle motor the one part of the machine that you have to use to the maximum possible extent to reduce your cycle time and make profits? Something about motor heating, what is the duty cycle, your RMS power, what are motor ratings, and what you should, these motor ratings, why you should know and look at them in the motor specification, in the machine specification. Look at the specification sheet of the machine to understand the machine power. Speed power graph, again, part of the specification sheet of the machine tool builder. If it's not there, please ask the machine tool builder. They'll give you this. They have it also, right? How do you calculate? What is the formula that is used for calculating the spindle power? Why you should use it to the maximum possible extent, again, and why it is not harmful to use it to the maximum possible extent if you understand the rating and the other specifications of the motor, right? And something about the using the tool to the maximum extent. So this is what we learned: spindle heating, rating, speed power graph, tool and insert selection. How do you use a software to do all these, make accurate? You can use the cycle time sheet to make accurate job codes with less than, the errors something like less than 1% in the cycle time. Automatically generate shop documents, and most importantly, maximize spindle power utilization through a software. So you do all this, you're a happy man, like this ape here, right? Making profits. There's lots more blogs. There are about 120 blogs on a lot of related issues, including whatever we spoke about here in this blog area of ours, cadem.com/blog. Just go to the site cadem.com. There's a link there, blog. You click on it, you'll get a lot of articles there, which explain whatever I spoke to you just now, plus a lot more things. Then there are this webinar, of course, was in English. There's a similar one, the same webinar, the same talk on Saturday at 11 a.m. in Hindi. So if you're more comfortable with Hindi, just please come to our webinar on Saturday. Then there's whatever we did today, and what I explained, tool and cutting parameters selection, the spindle power and so on. This, there's a very detailed, extensive webinar on Monday, coming Monday, May 18th. Right? It's a 3-hour, very exhaustive thing with a lot of, and we'll be doing exercises during that. It's a paid webinar, right? Which once you finish this, the aim is, once you attend that, after the 3-hour webinar, you will be completely equipped to do all these and start making your cycle time reduction from day one. You can dramatically, typically what happens is you end up reducing your cycle time by 30 to 40% or even more by the use of all these techniques. This webinar will explain all those techniques. and it'll have a lot of takeaways like this. Right. So for any further information, you can contact our sales team, sales@cadem.com. Now, if there are any questions, can you please put them in the chat box and we'll try and answer all those. I'm just going to, there are a lot of questions already. I'm just going to go. Mr. Devendra Mehta wants to know which companies are using it and since how long. Our company is, Cadem is now about 30 years old. There are companies which have been using our software from the past 30 years. A lot of companies, Tata Steel is using it, or Wipro, Maruti is using it. So some of these well-known companies, and a lot of companies are using it for, say, in the area of cutting in tooling, aerospace, auto parts. You have electric motor companies using it. You have companies making those insulators, electrical insulators. They cut on ceramic, right? So they are using it. Huge variety of companies in India as well as abroad. Abroad, in fact, we have companies like General Electric. General Electric uses this in its aircraft plant in the US. Volkswagen is using it. So quite a lot of companies. With increasing 4.3 mm depth of cut, let us know the simulation. The simulation is simply going to show a higher depth of cut. It's only a visual thing, right? But we saw what, this is Mr. Ravi Kumar Nayak's question. With increasing 4.3 mm depth of cut, let us know the simulation. So since we are short of time, I don't want to go back there and get back into the simulation again. But you saw the reduction in cycle time because of that, a 25% reduction in cycle time. What is the difference between CamWorks and Capstone? It is directly installed at machine. It is okay for 10-year-old machine. Mr. Sandeep Surve has these questions. Now, I don't know about CamWorks or any other, I don't want to compare with any other software, but what I can tell you is that Capstone is not a mere CAD/CAM software. What is the purpose of a CAD/CAM software? It is to generate a CNC program, right? And that's the end. But Capstone's aim is to generate a CNC program, yes, that also. But its aim is to enable you to make money and to improve your shop floor systems. Like you saw this feature called Moneymaker, which is taking your machine's spindle capacity into account. And every single machine we enter, what is the curve, the speed torque, the speed power curve, what is the acceleration deceleration rate of the axis, the spindle acceleration deceleration rate, tool change time, chuck open close time, all these are entered for every single machine of yours. And therefore your cycle time calculation is extremely accurate with less than 1% error. You can actually use it for your job quotations very, very confidently. That is one thing. It's generating all those documents automatically. Then it's cycle time calculation, the cycle time reduction feature using the power and so on. That is something unique to us. I don't think other software, the function of other software may be to just generate the programs. Capstone is not merely generating the programs. It is meant to enable you to make money. It's designed to make money for you. That's it. Mr. Deshmukh wants to know if we can get the PPT of the webinar. We have your contact details. So yes, after the webinar, we'll check with the sales team and then send you the PPT. Again, Mr. Devendra Mehta wants to know how different is it from Mastercam? Again, you need to, I would say 90% of the software is meant for generating CNC programs. 10% of the software is meant which it has a lot of other, like our product, it's calculating the chip volume, it's calculating the chip weight, right? The scrap volume, scrap weight. It's telling you how much money you can make by selling the scrap, how much is the cost of your machining. It's taking your power into account. It's taking all your machine characteristics into account. So that way we are very unique. I'm sure that very few products out there have these features because they're designed for just generating the program. Can we use for Okuma and Mazak CNC? Capstone will generate ISO format programs. So any controller that accepts ISO format programs, you can use it for. Mazak, if it's one of those older controllers where it was not accepting, I think they were calling it the EIA. So if it doesn't accept ISO format programs, then you can't use Capstone, but any other later versions you can. Can we, Mr. Shankar Gauri wants to know, can we use it, can we program it for casting components, not bar stock? Yes. So what I showed you was bar stock, but you can, any casting or forging, you can, the raw material can be drawn as a casting or a forging, or drawn in an external CAD and imported or whatever. And Capstone will automatically know where the raw material is, and it will come at rapid till there and go. So there is no wasteful rapid motions at all. There are zero wasteful rapid motions in Capstone. It has extremely high artificial intelligence and so on to be able to determine where the raw material is, come at rapid till close to that, and then start cutting from there. So you can use casting and forging, and you'll get a highly efficient programs with minimal cycle time. Mr. Srinath wants to know how much does the software cost. Mr. Srinath, you can get in touch with our sales team. The email ID is there, sales@cadem.com, and then take that forward. Mr. Pandurang Magdum wants to know, please explain the difference between max spindle motor power and maximum torque. So the power equation, it is, let's say 2 pi nt, right? 2 pi nt by 4500 or 2 pi nt by 60,000 or whatever, depending on whether it's. So 2 pi nt, the n is the RPM and t is the torque. Power is a function of RPM and torque, right? The higher the RPM, the lower the torque for the same power. Let's say you're running at 10 kilowatts, motor generating 10 kilowatts. At a higher RPM, your torque is going to be low. At a lower RPM, the torque is high. Just like in an automobile, right? When we use gears. So that is the relationship. Mr. Mahesh Deshmukh again wants to know the cost. Mr. Deshmukh, again, please get in touch with the sales team. Mr. Krishna Gavane wants to know, is it able to use an old CNC lathe machine? Yes, it depends on the controller. If your controller, if it's a Fanuc or a Siemens or whatever, they all accept ISO format programs. So it doesn't matter whether it's old or new. The machine can be old, new, whatever. And in the power calculation factor, I told you that if it's a new machine, the frictional losses are lower, right? So we take that, we see your machine and then see how old it is and put that factor. It's a rough estimate. We put that factor accordingly there. And then once you use it for 2-3 times, you'll know that, okay, this calculated power here is this much, but my actual power on the machine is this much. And then you can fine tune it also. We help you to do all that. Mr. Vishwal Vishwanath wants to know whether work holding and chuck pressure is calculated in the software. No, this is after your chuck. Whatever is happening after the chuck, we cannot take care of work holding. Mr. Aman Jain wants to know, do you have an office in Pune? Can we get a demo? Yes, we do have a reseller. You can get a remote demo. Please just contact our email ID. If also, yeah, the Monday, like I said, the Monday webinar, that's a 3-hour long webinar, which will give you all these things, and it'll actually enable you to do these, so that we're doing this on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, you will be able to actually use all this knowledge to actually reduce the cycle time using all this knowledge. If you're interested in attending the Monday webinar, you can also you can get in touch through the email ID sales@cadem.com, or you can just put your email ID and phone number in the chat box itself, so we can quickly get back to you. Thank you, Mr. Surve. Mr. Surve says that it's a great webinar, and thank you very much for your kind words. We really appreciate the fact that you found it useful. Mr. Vishal Vishwanath wants to know what is the cost of the Monday 18th webinar. The cost of that is, I think, Sandesh, can you unmute and just mention the cost?
So it's gonna be 1,200 rupees, including taxes.
Okay. Thank you, Ashish. So 1,200 rupees inclusive of taxes. It's a 3-hour webinar. I think 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be doing a lot of exercises. You can actually, at the end of it, you'll be able to, from cutting tool catalogs, you'll be able to actually select the best possible cutting tools. The insert, the chip breaker geometry, cutting parameters, all these, the grade, and also use the spindle power to the maximum possible extent. Again, Mr. Krishna Gavane wants to know whether we can use it on a GD Weiler lathe machine. I'm assuming that the GD Weiler machine has a FANUC control. Yes, you can, definitely. Actually, like I said, there is no limit. It can be used on any machine at all. Mr. Saravana Sridhar, thank you for your kind words again. And Mr. Sridhar says that it was very informative, and he got some very useful information. So yes, whatever the controller, your programs can be generated for FANUC, for Siemens, for Haas, Mitsubishi, whatever controller, the Okuma. Is it possible to get free software for academic students for practicing as a value-added course? Mr. Nair wants to know, Srijit Nair, but no, we don't have any free software, because we also have to, this is our, how we get our revenue. Mr. Srinath R wants to know, can you please give us a seminar regarding tool selection by manually, apart from this software? Yes, Mr. Srinath, the Monday one is all about manual selection of tools. It'll guide you in great detail through what are the various factors, what is tool wear, what are cutting parameters, then what is, how does the chip break, and why chip breaker geometry is very important in an insert. Finally, so all this theory will be there. Finally, we'll be doing a big exercise on selecting a tool, an insert from an actual catalog, insert and cutting parameters. When I say insert, we'll be talking about grades, we'll be talking about chip breaker geometry, we'll be talking about insert shapes and their effect on cutting forces, insert nose radius. How do you select a nose radius? How does it affect cutting forces? How does it affect your surface finish? All these will be covered there. It's in great detail. Mr. Sudhakar Gorpade wants to know, can we get customized documents like process sheet, etc.? So the process sheet and so on are customizable to the extent that you get your logo on top. So your own logo will come there, but the rest of the process sheet it's a fixed thing. Mr. Uday Kumar wants to know what percentage of air passes will be avoided. I'm assuming that this question relates to the Capstone software and its selection of the toolpath. The air pass will be reduced drastically. Like I said, whether you can actually define the raw material as a casting or a forging, right? And casting, forging, or a cylindrical blank, and the software knows exactly where the raw material is. It will dramatically reduce your air passes. When we program manually, we tend to, we are not so confident, and so we'll take a slightly longer, safety distance, say 5 mm or something, and we'll come till there. But the software knows exactly where the raw material is, so it'll reduce your air passes to a bare minimum. So a lot of people, Mr. Jagdish Asundi says good information. Mr. Uday Kumar also says very useful. So thank you very much for, again, the appreciation. We are glad that you liked the information, and the time that you spent with us was useful for you. Mr. Vishal Vishnath, for increase in depth of cut, should we factor the work holding area and clamping pressure? Definitely. If your work holding is not good or the clamping pressure is low, your rigidity is part holding rigidity is low, so you have to reduce your depth of cut and so on. Mr. Sachin Jagtap wants to know, can you please email the detailed information about the paid webinar? Definitely, we'll get in touch with you. We'll send you that. Anyway, all of you, whoever's attended this, will also get a WhatsApp message and email about the paid webinar with the details. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Srinath R says it's a lovely webinar. And apart from the seminar, your reply to all the questions is pretty good and appreciable, and being calm even after talking continuously for 90 minutes. Thank you. Sometimes I wonder how, so 90 minutes, we people in industry, we think it's a long time. I wonder how our teachers, they talk for 8 hours, the whole day they'll be talking, right? Giving lectures. And I wonder how they're doing that. 90 minutes actually quite a long time in terms of, speaking. So thank you all for, I think that's the end of the questions. Thank you, Mr. Nair. Again, you're saying it's an excellent webinar. Thank you all very much for being with us for 1.5 hours and listening to this webinar and spending your valuable time. I hope this really gave you some lot of good information, and that it's information that you can use on your shop floor when you go back after the lockdown is over. Thank you very much.